Anjelica Huston is here. This month she follows in the footsteps of her very famous father, making her directorial debut in the film Bastard Out of Carolina. She began her career at the age of 16 when her father cast her as the lead in his film A Walk with Love and Death. Since then she has gone on to win an Oscar for her performance in Prizzi's Honor and starred in such other films as The Grifters, The Addams Family, and The Crossing Guard. I am very pleased, at long last, to have her on this broadcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you
here, too.
Tell me about directing and wanting to do it, and why this project, because Dorothy Allison, as I mentioned to you before we started, was on this program when the book was released, and all of the attention that it brought to her, as well as the plaudits for the book.
Well, I guess I just spent too long sitting around in movie trailers, wondering what everyone else was doing and what took so long. I started thinking about directing, I guess, 10 years ago. And particularly towards the end of my father's life, and after I'd gone through stages of rebellion, to actually observe what he did. And I think particularly on Prizzi's Honor and on The Dead, I sat at his feet more than I had before, and really had a chance to observe him and what he did. And I guess you can't be around it for that long and not somehow develop a taste for it, yes. And so when this came my way, and it sort of came out of the blue, I was set to do something else, a half-an-hour movie that actors are doing right now for Showtime as directors. This thing sort of came into my possession, and with an offer from Turner Network to direct.
Now, did it come as a screenplay, or
it came as a screenplay? Okay. And I hadn't read the book by Dorothy Allison. I was an innocent, or rather a naive, I should say. And I was immediately very, very struck by the material, very moved by the material. So after having read the script, I then immediately went and got the book. And I thought it was tremendously powerful, a fantastic new voice. And since I don't know whose crazy idea it was, but since they'd offered it to me, I felt I'd be very foolish not to pick them up on the offer.
And now, how do you feel about this film and this craft of directing?
Well, they're two sort of separate things.
I know.
About the film, I'm proud that I got through it. I'm proud that I did it. I stand by my belief in the original material. I think it's an important piece. I of course, am a neophyte, so there are things that I see that perhaps I think I could have benefited from more experience. But on the other hand, you have to start somewhere. But overall, I would say that I was happy with the film and happy with the performance.
What happened at Turner?
Well, they suggested I make the film. I was asked to shoot the film head-on, and it's rather potent material.
Just tell the story briefly. I mean, it is about about domestic violence.
It's about domestic violence.
I mean, it's about
it covers
incest
12 years in a young girl's life in which she's abused by her stepfather, with finally, ultimately, the knowledge of the mother, and the consequences thereof. I was asked to shoot the film head-on by the executives at Turner. I took it down to North Carolina. We shot the film. I sent dailies back, and ultimately came back after the film and presented my director's cut to Turner. Went in for a couple of sessions at their offices, and was asked if I might modify the film. In other words, cut, maybe not entirely, but into a couple of scenes, which I think they felt were maybe too traumatic for the television audience. And I was resistant and told them that I felt that in order for the story to make sense, and after all, this is what the story is about, that I really disagreed with them on that score. And then finally, I think they just decided to show it to Mr. Turner himself, who I understand took one look at it and said, not on my network. So then I was cast into a sort of limbo, and ultimately was invited to take it to the Cannes Film Festival, and took it there sort of under my own auspices, and finally it was sold to Showtime, for which I'm very grateful. I'm grateful, actually, to Turner for giving me the chance to do it in the first place. I don't know that he's all that involved with the product from his network, and I guess that's up to him. I don't really have any bones of contention. I got the film made. It's airing now, and in its entirety without commercials. So.
And if you miss it on Sunday, December 15th, it'll be seen at other times on Showtime. Here is a clip. Dorothy Allison's book, directed by Anjelica Huston, Bastard Out of Carolina.
It's my one day off, and you got a tear around here? Now just cool it, kid. You're a girl, not a racehorse.
You're a girl, not a racehorse.
Little bitch! You little bitch! Come here! Come on, come on, you smart. Get over here. Come on. Go. Come on. You sure?
Glenn? Glenn? Glenn, open the door. Glenn, unlock the door. I'm sorry.
Not as sorry as you're gonna be.
Glenn, please.
Tearing around here,
Glenn, let me in.
making fun of me.
Glenn! Stop it!
Hey, she's my girl too!
What'd you do, honey? What'd you do to make him so mad?
I should say that was Jennifer Jason Leigh, and also in this is Jenna Malone, and who else?
Ron Eldard.
That was Ron Eldard.
That was Ron Eldard, Glenn Headley, Susan Traylor, Grace Zabriskie, Lyle Lovett. A lot of
Lyle
people.
Lovett's in it?
Yeah, for a small part. But
Does he provide any of the music, or?
no, he provides
As
the
an
face,
actor.
though.
A face. Where do you think you'll go from this? I mean, is this experience so satisfying for you that you're going to now look for projects to direct?
Oh, sure. And if I'm let, yes, I'll do it again. I had a really good time doing it. I loved it. It was a completely different experience from acting for me. Thrilling not to be on screen for once, and great to be involved with so many other areas of filmmaking. And I've always loved set design. I've always loved costume design, and you can stick your nose in all kinds of departments and not get in trouble for it.
There is no way, no possible way, that you would not have been involved in film and theater as your life.
I don't think so. I certainly wouldn't have been a computer expert, or a mathematician, or a banker, or a dentist. I can't imagine what else I would have been useful at.
Yeah. But it gets in the blood, or everybody you know does that, or?
Well, my first experience, I think, in the acting profession was playing one of the three witches in the Scottish play at the age of about 5, 6 years old, to an audience that comprised both my father and Peter O'Toole. So I guess even in those days I had more gall than most. I just loved it. I loved dressing up. I was one of those children who was always sort of in my mother's hamper and trying to amuse or
What did your father urge you to? Did he encourage you to? Did he suggest that it was...
Initially not. No, I think he was rather resistant. I think, you know, the consensus was when I was growing up that children who were involved in film were brats, and I think he'd worked with enough actors to have, yes, to have a certain amount of trepidation about my becoming one, or at least inadvertently becoming one. So he resisted until I was about 15, and I expressed interest in working in theater and working in movies, and consequently he put me in a film called A Walk with Love and Death, which was not a good idea on either of our parts. It was a difficult time. I didn't much like the material, and he felt that, you know, I didn't know enough not to like the material. So we were at loggerheads throughout the making of that movie, and I think finally he agreed with me. It was a bad idea.